What's good, everyone? First of all, I want to thank all of you for the ton of advice you've been giving me on how to get rid of shin splints forever. I know your thoughts are all coming from a well-meaning place, but advice such as changing my mechanics is kind of like asking me to shave a few millimeters off my heel. It's that difficult. So I can either get a hacksaw or just use the Hoka Mach X2. We're all looking for a quick fix to solve our problems, right? And if you're not, you're lying. Who wants to do things the hard way when it's usually the long way? The secret to compensating for your heel striking, I don't say fix because I'm no foot doctor, isn't the dual density midsole of the shoe, although it's a really important element. Nope, the secret to assisting your heel striking is this: the early stage metarocker, for which Hoka is well known for. This is where the roll through in your stride literally happens. Yeah, I'm simplifying. It's a little more complex than just this curve. The Mach X2 has two different midsole compounds with a plastic plate sandwiched between them. You can see some of that winged plate right here. None of this is new, but Hoka has really done it in a way that assists heel strikers like me. I'll explain a little bit more, but first, let's talk about the fit. Because this shoe, let's just say it's love and hate, as in you'll love to hate it. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. This shoe is a major effing pain in the ass to get on. The lack of structure in this woven upper, obviously for weight saving reasons and breathability, which are pretty good, just make this part really flimsy. When you're stuffing your feet in there, once you finally manage to navigate through the gussets, you get a whole lot of bunching up in this tongue. On top of that, this tongue is annoyingly short and thin. So not only do you have to dig in there to get a hold of the tongue and then grab onto it for dear life as you pull it taut over your foot, if you tie it a little too tight, the shoe gives you lace bite. It's even more annoying if you have to use a runner's knot, and chances are you will due to this heel counter, because not only is the tongue too short, but so are the laces. That brings me to my second issue with this upper. I got a little bit of heel lift on my right foot, hence why I use the runner's knot. That lack of structure in the heel always gives you this feeling that your foot's gonna fall out of the shoe when you start picking up the pace, or worse, when you're coming around a corner. For the record, I never lost a shoe or slipped in the over 200 miles I put into these shoes. I know, that's a lot for me, and later you'll understand why. The grip, I have to say, is surprisingly good, but because the upper never inspired much confidence going around the corners, I never pushed these shoes as hard as I normally would. The heel counter kind of resembles the one that's on the Rocket X2. Those are kind of flimsy as well, but I never got heel lift in those. The upside is that the shoe has plenty of room, both in the toe box and throughout. I still say that they're true to size because of their length. I just think the lack of structure is a detriment to this design because it really doesn't fit well, and that has been the single biggest complaint about this shoe. Fortunately, for those of you who don't really keep up, the good news is that they've already designed a new Mach X, and sure enough, they went with a more traditional upper. I think for a daily trainer, that's the smart choice, and I'll be excited to try that one out later this year. But you have to give them credit. Hoka pushed the boundaries and realized that they went a little too far and were brave enough to take it back a notch. All that said about the poor fit, the midsole is very, very good. It's one of the highlights for sure, and it makes up for the fit. The midsole is comprised of two different foams with a redesigned winged plastic plate sandwiched between them. The upper layer is a PIBA-based foam, very bouncy, very responsive, and light, much like the Cielo. The bottom layer of midsole is an EVA blend, so a little firmer than the top, and it gives it a tiny bit of stability. Usually, the dual density midsoles kind of gives you two different rides depending on your foot strike. It's also what you get in the Mach X2. I like to call it the Jekyll and Hyde midsole. If you heel strike, you get one type of feel, and if you're more of a mid to forefoot striker, you get a whole different vibe. But there's something special about how Hoka managed to put it together. The issue I have with these dual density midsoles is that they tend to benefit the mid to forefoot strikers the most, because the designers of the shoes, they put more of that responsive foam in the front half of the shoe. That in turn produces a shoe that's a little harder for me to use being a heel striker. I don't really benefit as much unless I'm running faster paces that get me up on my toes. For example, in the Puma DV8 Nitro 3, I really had to work to roll through the stride. Maybe it had to do with the stiffer carbon plate, who knows. But it also happened in the Asics Metaspeed Edge Paris. But the Mach X2 is the first dual density shoe where I really felt like I could take advantage of the combination foam. Or rather, it didn't work against me throughout all the different paces. Maybe inserting less rigid plastic plate is the magic ingredient. For sure, the best rocker design out there contributes a lot to making the transition smoother and easier. Anyway, it's the first time I felt that way about a dual density midsole. It didn't require any extra effort as a heel striker. Hoka really got the formula right. Now, I talked about the traction of the outsole, and it's actually very good, very grippy. Although, like I said before, I can't be 100% sure because I could never get the worry out of my head that I was going to roll an ankle. For that reason, I made sure not to take any hard turns because I didn't want to risk getting hurt. I can do that just fine by myself. Furthermore, I never ran in any weather. It was usually bone dry, minus a few sprinkler situations, and entirely on paved surfaces. The thing I question about the outsole is its durability. As you can see in the heel, it's pretty worn through, and this is after 200 miles. That's a lot of wear, and I'm sure it'll go to 400 miles. That's just a personal marker I like to use before I retire a shoe. But how much of this rubber is going to be left is a big mystery. Most likely, it's going to look pretty bald. Despite this incredibly annoying upper, this shoe still has something about it that you just can't resist. The midsole is a delight. I mean, I still logged well over 200 miles in these, and that's a first for me. Let's be real, the price is also another reason I wasn't going to give up on these shoes. For those longer runs, it's really easy to set it and forget it with this shoe, and that's one of the biggest positives. The underfoot feeling is responsive and just keeps bouncing along. I did notice, however, that after some of my longest runs, I did get some ankle fatigue, but I think that's due in equal parts to the lack of structure and to my age. It's definitely not a stable shoe, but I only felt that a couple times in my ankles after my longest runs. The Mach X2 I think is the first dual density midsole that works equally well for heel strikers as it does for mid to forefoot strikers. You might find yourself muttering under your breath each time you lace them up, but once you get through that, you'll be rewarded for the effort. The Mach X2 is just one of those shoes that you'll hate yourself for loving. Ride or run, let's get it done.